Hi, Nancy here, and today I want to teach you how to use charts. A lot of knitters are afraid to use them, and I know so many people that actually use small recipe cards and they will rewrite the pattern just so they can avoid using these charts, and they really are quite simple. And this particular pattern, I chose this for a class I'm teaching at Stephen B's. I did this because there are no written directions. There is only the chart, and so it forces you to follow this chart. The similarities that all charts have, they always have a legend, and these are very standard. It will explain what each little diagram means, and this is with the plain box. It's knit on the right side, purl on the wrong side. There's your yarn over, knit two together. The dot means purl on the right side, knit on the wrong side. You have SSK. This is the mark for slipping a stitch. There's for the bind off, and this little guy is a knit and yarn over knit in the same stitch. This little dark box, it kind of, during the copying, it kind of faded away here. That really means no stitch at all, and not yet anyways. And this one means knit in front and back of the same stitch. When you read these charts, and this one, she did a really wonderful job writing this, because the chart is written for work that's back and forth. If this were a chart written for something that was knit in the round, everything would be listed on the right side, because only the right side appears when you're knitting in the round. This, of course, is knit front and back, and charts are read from the bottom right-hand corner across to the left. And when you work the wrong side, you start at the left side and read across to the right side. When you're working these charts, sometimes you'll find that it will say numbers are only visible on the right side, and it will have a notation that on the wrong side, those stitches are always purled or treated as they're presented, whether it's a knit or purl. And that's probably because a lot of these patterns don't have actual patterning on the wrong side. It's only done on the right side. But you can see on this particular pattern, this is a very active lace pattern, so there's things happening on both the right side and the wrong side. What goofs people up more than anything is this part right here. This is the repeat. And of course, we've made this smaller so it would fit into the camera. And it tells you this particular part is your repeat. This is where a marker needs to be placed. So there's only one marker. So when I would start this, I would start here and I would follow this across just like this. But let's say as I increase, see, this pattern grows. These stitches haven't filled in yet because we haven't increased enough to fill this area. So let's say that I'm up here, okay? At that point, I would have increased enough that I would be repeating this section more than once, probably several times, because you're going from 28 stitches here to 70. That's what you end up with at the top, 70 stitches. So this little part here would be repeated several times. Your heads up is your marker here. So you would be working along your pattern. You would get these stitches done first. You would work your repeat. Now obviously if you had 18 stitches left plus this area, you would know, yep, I'm going to have to do this repeat more than once. And you count your stitches as you go. You can see where they work themselves out. For example, this one would start out, you would bind off 2 stitches. Now remember, you have to knit or work 2 stitches at the very beginning to equal 1 bind off. So you would knit 2 for 1 bind off, then knit 1 more for the second. This part here is telling you that you would have a total of 2 knit stitches on your needle at that point. Here you would purl, purl, knit, 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 and then in this next stitch you would knit into the front and back of the same stitch. Here you would just go right and slip your marker, then you would knit, yarn over, and then you would carry on across here, slip SSK, yarn over SSK, yarn over SSK. Your next row would begin here. You would follow it across, you would begin with a yarn over, then a purl, knit in the front and the back, purl, knit in front and back, purl, knit in front and back, purl, slip your marker. We know those stitches are gray because they're not there yet. We haven't increased to that point yet. So we're going to do 2 knits, and then we're going to follow this repeat. Here it shows it's only 2 stitches. If you look at the legend, we know on that one stitch you would knit, yarn over, knit, and then the next one you would knit the final stitch. Here you're increasing. There's 12 increases that will take place on this 36 row repeat. And so every section here, by the time we get up to here, we have actually started increasing enough stitches so that we will begin repeating this more than once. So by the time I think it's row 17 or 18, there's actually a repeat now of this, and it could be 3-4 times. If there wasn't a change in the stitch count on this, like this particular pattern, because it's lace, it would be the same amount of stitches, and it would tell you repeat these center stitches X amount of times. Repeat this 5 times, and then you would do your last stitch and whatnot. What happens to a lot of knitters is they will get this repeat, they will knit across, and then they will have stitches left over, and then they'll start at the very beginning again. And then their pattern gets screwed up. It happens a lot. So you have to remember that this part right in here is the only part that's going to get repeated. This is once, this is once, this is once. So you just follow it back and forth. Count your stitches. Make sure you're on board and that everything's adding up. And you really should not have any problems as long as you know what these mean. And if you get a new pattern, make sure you understand what these stitches mean. And then you can go on and start your pattern and you'll have no problems. But charts are very, very easy to work with. They really are. And I think you'll find your knitting will go a lot faster once you can switch over to a chart. I hope this helps.